All right, guys. Today we are. How you doing, Brian? We're going to be talking about
Good man.
your VA stuff. I
I
know
love
I
it.
just hopped on the call with Brian today, and he was like, "I am. I just got off the phone. I just hired another VA.
Well, I think what's
I think
cool.
you're collecting them."
I think one of the things that's big, yeah, collecting them exactly. I think what's a big piece that it sounds like a lot of listeners have been interested in for us is like artificial intelligence and AI, right?
Yeah,
And I think that one of the thought processes that I kind of figured would be good is, and we'll talk about some. I think another future podcast we're just chatting about will be like AI tools that we really see emerging already that are really positive. Um, But I think what I have noticed in particular is that VAs can still be really, really, really effective at certain tasks. And so, for those who don't understand the acronym, it's virtual assistants.
yeah,
So when it comes to like a virtual assistant, I had a friend who was talking about. He's like, "Oh, I'm really into Upwork, and Upwork's a really good site for this." And basically, like finding people in Latin America that can help me with certain projects that I otherwise would have to hire somebody in the States. And we get from our fitness lead nurturing all the time. We get a bunch of people who speak Spanish and they're like, I need somebody who speaks Spanish. So I thought to myself, I go, that's freaking genius. I was like, because our AI still isn't great at that. Like yes, the AI companies will pitch, they'll speak 12 languages. They don't do it well. They don't go back and forth well. They don't navigate that. Whereas like somebody who's Colombian is just going to naturally switch from English
well, and
to Spanish.
that's my big thing as an outside looking in, right? Because I started a cash practice. I'm just, I right now I'm at a point where I have a really good job, so I'm not looking at lead nurture. I don't get 20 calls a day from my $3,000 in ad spend like you do, right? So I'm looking at it and saying, okay, I don't know if I have the money or the time to be able to figure out, okay, what's a VA good at? What's AI good at? And
Yeah.
like you read the top line news things of like, oh, well, AI just solved world hunger or AI just did all this stuff. And you're talking about like massive quantum computing with unlimited budgets. And then they finally did this one thing, right? But then me as a business owner, I'm like, okay, but maybe I only have like $1,000 to spend on this, right?
Yeah.
What I guess I mean, what would you tell me, right? Like
Yeah.
let's
It's a
say
good
I'm
call.
super busy, it's not Arizona summer. No one's here. Everyone's in San Diego, right? But like as I just was, by the way.
Nice.
I highly recommend San Diego beaches. But like what do you say to the guy who's like, all right, I want to optimize because the first thing I think of is screw optimization, man. You need more patience. That's what anybody should say to me, right? Is like, you just need more butts in the seats and then you can optimize, right? But
Yes.
like, let's say I'm at a point where my schedule is pretty full and I just need more time to service my people. Like, what would you do? Like, who would you say VA first?
For sure.
Was
I
there
would
an
go.
AI thing first?
No, I would go with a VA first. A really good VA,
Okay.
and here's why. Right?
So how do I know
AI.
it's a really good VA? That's the second question. You tell me why to my first
Yeah.
question, and then how
All
do I
right.
know who's good?
All right. So the reason why is AI right now. So to Owen's point, everybody's talking artificial intelligence, AI, AI, AI. AI is not prepared to replace humans yet at certain things, right? It can do certain ad copies well, it can do things quickly, but it's not replacing anything. That's a lie. That's just something that's a catchy headline.
Yeah.
AI, in my experience so far, does three things really, really well. And maybe there's some other pieces that it does well, but these are three things that I have seen consistently it does well. One, it's really fast at tasks. So if you can give it a task, it's really, really fast. But just like the person who does things fast doesn't mean it's always done correctly, right? But it's really fast and it will call people quickly. It'll do that stuff. It works really well. So speed is king there. Two, it never needs to take a vacation. It never needs to pee. It never needs to, it'll work weekends. It'll work 2 in the morning. It doesn't care. It'll work all the time.
Well, some of
So
those AI companion bots might need to pee if you're into that.
well, exactly. So anyway, so again, like from an automated texting perspective, they can be really effective too because they can be quick and they'll do it at 1 in the morning when people are doom scrolling on their phone, right? So it works really well
Yeah.
there. And then the three that I think is huge when it comes to certain things like calling leads, it never cares if someone tells it to fuck off, right? So like we get that in lead nurture sometimes, and for those listening
Yeah.
who are like solopreneurs and smaller businesses, like yeah, you're getting warm lead. I think that's really what it comes down to. People are like, well, I'm really good at closing these types of leads, but not these types of leads. Well, these types of leads are the types of leads that tell you to fuck off, and they're uncomfortable leads. So human beings are not good at handling that, right? So AI is good at that. Whereas
Okay.
with a VA, the reason why I would say a VA right now, one, if you can find a really VA that does those three things well, there's your KPIs for that VA, right? They made the phone calls, they're converting. It's important to do that. So Owen asked, how do you do it? So again, to go back, one of the things that happens with some of our AI systems is they leave like gaps in what they do, right? So if you're, for instance, one of the things I'm talking about here is with lead nurture. So say there's a patient that calls, or a lead that calls, um, clicks on an ad or calls Owen to schedule, right? But he's working with somebody, and the VA is going to call him back to schedule. A really good VA, one, will be able to speak multiple languages. That's always helpful, right? Two, it's quick, so they know, the person knows, like, all right, I got to call this person. They know your schedule. Owen's not going to be there, blah, blah, blah. So they're a fast learner. Three, they can do multiple tasks. So they good at lead nurture. They can talk the person through the phone. Hey, like, tell me what's going on, blah, blah. They can follow a script. They're a quick learner. They're naturally like a good human being when it comes to like actually talking on the phone, right? And then they know how to use the CRMs. They know how to use the actual like scheduling stuff and schedule them properly on your calendar. That'd be highly, highly effective, right?
Mm.
That's what I think we hope that AI can do. AI has a couple barriers to that. One is I do think there's just a genuine still distrust from people for AI. So what happens is if you find out it's AI, people are like, oh, it's an automated service, where it really isn't. It's better than that, but it's AI. It doesn't, it feels clunky. And two is, when it comes to natural pauses, like see how you and I are having a conversation, but I'm kind of dominating right now. I'm talking, and
Yeah.
like, so you see that yup you just had. If you say
Uh,
yup, the AI all of a sudden will be like, thanks, Owen. And like, oh, and like it has these weird breaks to it,
yeah.
right? And so what happens is you can feel it being digital, and instantly now what happens as a human is I don't trust it, and I'm just not going to build the same rapport with it. That's why VAs are so good.
And that's my thought, right? So thinking like high level and just kind of digesting all the news around it, I look at what you have, right? Where you have a half fitness, half PT business. You have 5 locations, multiple therapists. You are going to have a full-time job just dealing with people who are calling you every day to
For sure.
start care, right? And a lot of our listeners are going to be like me, or maybe they have 1 or 2 other contracted therapists they use, or maybe they only have 1 or 2 clinics where a VA would be great, right? Where they can say, okay, I don't need to get somebody at 10 on the west side of Connecticut. I'm a small operation. Like it's fine if somebody calls them back in 2 or 3 hours, right? So I feel like there's a scalability thing where AI, when people know that you're a big company, they understand, okay, this guy's got a bunch of leads, like whatever, I'm talking to an AI bot, but eventually I'll get in, right? Whenever you go to Athletico, you don't expect the therapist to pick up the phone call and say, hi, how are you? Tell me about your shoulder, right? You expect a big company to have like 5 or 6 things, right? But the other thing I'm worried, or not worried about, or I'm wondering about is, you think of the food chain, right, of research. Cancer, AIDS, all that stuff, they get way more research dollars than like ankle sprains, right?
Yep.
I think the same is going to happen when it comes to like physical therapy AI versus like the stuff Tesla uses, right? And I think
Yeah.
people will expect the stuff Tesla uses when really like no PT has the budget for that,
That's hilarious.
right?
That's a hilarious take. And I never thought of it that way, but you're so right.
But that's
Right.
it. I
Like,
mean, you're saying like, oh, there's this choppy thing with yup and uh-huh. And I'm like, dude, I just watched some like tech conference where the guy was stuttering through the whole thing and the language model figured it out. And it's like, well, yeah, he's got like 8 quantum computers figuring that out that
yes.
he bought. Right.
Yeah.
Well, guess what you're paying?
Yes, exactly.
You're paying a few thousand a month. You're getting what was great like 6 years ago.
Yeah,
Right. So
it's true. It's true. Or well, that's actually my concern with some of the AI we're using is that the thing that's so interesting about AI too is that it's constantly learning, right? It's constantly
yeah.
learning stuff, which like in that scenario is awesome. But it's also one of those things where like you think, okay, cool, it's learning, but is it getting better? Right?
Mhm.
In some scenarios, it is. Like I think Chat GPT and what it's coming out with is really good. I think you mentioned Tesla and Elon Musk, and I think what comes out with Grok, like I think that's really learning. But some of these other AIs, I wonder, are they being developed into new versions, and then are they being deployed into what we're doing? Right?
Well, talk about learning though, to go back to what you were saying. You have a good VA, he knows what you like on
Yes.
your schedule, like all that stuff. Those AIs are learning on all the other clinic owners that are buying this. And
Yeah.
they are taking all the things, then maybe there's a survey afterwards, or you talk to a few owners and they tweak a few things, but you're helping a guy in Paducah, Kentucky get a little bit better at those, language things. Whereas with a VA, you call them and say, "Hey man, don't schedule that here." Or, "Hey,
Yeah.
it was weird when you kept saying, yep, okay, when I reviewed your call." Right? So
Yes.
you can directly train that a person, right?
Yeah, for sure.
To be very customized. Whereas with AI, yes, it is training, it is learning, but it has to have a massive amount of input, and then it comes up with the median, the median best answer, not your best answer.
I will say what I have found in general that AI does really well right now is like ad copy or copy for anything, right? Like
Yeah.
programming, like Chat GPT, just like writing stuff in. And I'm actually going to a workshop for AI next week. That'll be so excited. Maybe we'll do a podcast on that. Like, oh, this stuff I didn't think about. Holy crap, that's awesome. That'd be awesome. But I
Yeah.
think with like just the way, like as I'm playing around with it, like I know we've used AI for this podcast for CapCut, you can see the difference. It's sometimes it's not as good as when we have like us do it, right?
Yeah.
And just like
Yeah.
so, there's aspects to that. But I do, and I just think when it comes to like filming and it comes to that process, like there's just better systems out there for other than that humans just need to be involved in. That's really what it
Yeah.
comes down to. Like if you think, oh, the human's just better for it, that's when a VA would be better. And again,
Well,
like I think the good news about a VA to kind of like I'm going to cut you off like an AI wouldn't,
you're good.
but nevertheless, let's say it's if you think about a VA, if they're not doing a great job, it's a pretty quick switch. It's not like we have to like you're not firing somebody. You have to worry about unemployment. It's like, all right, cool, this isn't working. Sorry, on to the next person. And
Mhm.
so and by the way, it's also a fraction of the cost. So I know from an
Yeah,
ideological
talk about
perspective.
that. Like,
Yeah,
not to say exactly what your numbers are, because I'm not going to
I
say,
can. I'll
show
talk
us all
about
your
it.
financials. But
Yeah,
I'm thinking, okay, in Arizona, when we were hiring front offices, nobody would pick up our phone call for less than like $22, $23, right? Um, and then you're not typically getting the best quality, right?
yeah.
So what is a quote unquote good VA price range?
So what I found is VAs, you can get good quality VAs somewhere between $6 to $12 an hour. That's
Okay.
what's awesome about them. So
Oh,
to your point, like we
half,
what
more than half the cost.
more than half the cost. To your point about that, and
Yeah.
that's where you were in Phoenix, right? And again, you're going to get somebody who's bilingual. You're going to get somebody who is able to work hours. They work hourly, so they're also not that it's not that big of a deal. So again, like if you're for $20 to $30 a day, you can get half a day's work from somebody in there, right?
Well, yeah, and you don't have to feel bad about a 4-hour day because they just click over to the other person and work another 4 hours for the other person they're working
That's
for, as
actually what I've
opposed to
noticed.
someone in a building. They're like, well, crap, now I got to drive home, and then they don't need me there this morning, so now I only have a 4-hour workday.
They're freelancers, right? That's
Yeah,
what they are. So
virtual, so they can just click. Yeah,
exactly. And then if I have more work for somebody, then I'll hire somebody full time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And I think from that perspective, I've seen people on just different pay rates and it works great from that perspective. So I just think
yeah,
VA, and again, like to give you an idea, we're talking about that these are college educated people, right? Like
yeah.
that's what is kind of crazy about it all is like,
Fluent in English, especially
yeah,
if they're Philippines.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, when you think about it, and again, like some people, I do also think, and again, this is not to try and trigger something and be canceled, but I just think like in the United States, think about where you live in Arizona, where I live outside New York City, right? Like somebody who has a Spanish speaking accent is just it's a normal thing. Like so someone who has good English
yeah,
skills with a bit of a Spanish speaking accent and then can also speak Spanish, like that person is just going to be very well received on the phone, right?
yeah.
I have found that like we have somebody else who's from the Philippines. She has a bit of a thicker accent. And again, I'm not condoning that it's right, but there's definitely a difference. I noticed that she just gets talked to differently than, say, like I call a person or somebody in here calls a person, and that's the challenge, I think. And again, I think when you think about outsourcing, just like you talked about, I mean, this is what's happening in America, with America just getting more expensive, is that these types of roles, one, are going to be replaced by AI, but also in the meantime replaced by VAs. Because to your point, you're getting somebody at $20 to $25 an hour, and they're like, when I can just hire a VA for like $6 to $12 an hour, and they're awesome. I mean, that's what happened. We were paying somebody $20 an hour to do this work, and he wasn't doing a great job. And so I was like, you know what? What are we doing here? And he said, I don't really want to do this job anymore anyway. Then I was like, perfect opportunity to go hire a VA. In theory, I had the budget to do this now full time, to bring this guy in 40 hours. And so that's the flexibility. And for those who are solopreneurs right now, that are really penny pinching because they're trying to figure out the next step, if you just had a VA that could appointment set for you and take something off your plate. I mean, there are people who are graphic designers. There are people who will do social media posts. That's what I was talking about. This guy, he, like the other person I'm going to interview, she does all this stuff with graphic design work. All right, well, that's graphic design. Like, think about all my social media stuff. Like, and then here's the kicker: say you're somebody who can pay $20 an hour, right? $25 an hour. You can hire 3 VAs for that. And now you can have a graphic designer,
Wow.
video editor. You know what I mean? You can have all these crazy, more technical tasks done,
Yeah.
and it allows you to get stuff done faster. So that is, I think, that VAs are going to be the major bridge between now and moving towards AI for sure.
Well, and I think that's important too. Like, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you have front offices or front office staff in every clinic, right?
Yeah, but it
There's
reduces,
someone there to
like,
kind of greet the patient who's not the PT.
yeah, so kind of a rule of thumb has been for our offices that have 4 physical therapists. Basically, if you have 2 physical therapists full time in an office, we can do it with a VA, and then
Yeah.
we just, I'll give them a plug. It's this company called Welcomeware. And
Yeah.
Welcomeware essentially has like a video monitor that like a VA pops up whenever, and literally she is sitting there waiting. It's got like a kind of a video in front, and then when people click on it, they click on just like literally like schedule visit, and then this woman pops up and she's right there, and it's great.
Yeah.
She's awesome. And by the way, to your point, she would cost us like probably 3 times as much here in the States.
Yeah.
But because she has a medical billing background, she collects copay, she schedules, she does all this stuff. This other person is going to do more appointment setting. So, no, are they going to treat patients? Absolutely not. That's not what they do. But what it allows me to do is I have one front desk person that I love, who basically oversees 3 of our offices. And now we have 2 VAs to take off tasks off her,
Yeah.
so she could do her job better, right? So I think what it's going to do is it's going to reduce your butt in the seat need, you
Yeah.
know. Now, I think once you get past 2 physical therapists in a location, you probably need,
A person
somebody
there.
else. Yeah, you probably need
Yeah.
a person there, just from a
Well,
logistics perspective.
and I
So
mean, this is, to kind of put a cap on it, right? Like, this is what PTs who, and not to just say taking insurance, but even someone like me who just wants more work life balance, or just has a too much time, and I'm the PT, and also I don't have a space to hire somebody. Like, this is what we're being pushed to. We have to optimize, right?
yes,
And if you're in a space where you don't have a full schedule, you should not be listening to this podcast. Go out and find a patient, right? But if you are in a space where you have to be able to be, very good with systems, either you're an insurance based clinic, right, or you're a clinic that's very busy and you just don't have the time to do all the other stuff. VAs, like Brian said, can take some stuff off of their plate or off of your plate, but it might not be there yet, at least at our level, at what we can afford.
yeah, for sure, for
Right.
sure, for sure. But that's where, like I said, that's where the VAs can come in as
Yeah.
that person, right? So it can be a great bridge if you're again, they can do, people can do, there's so many people around the world that can do so many tasks for you really, really well, that
Yeah.
in essence, and again, you don't need to hire somebody. Like, that's where a company like Fiverr, you can just outsource certain stuff. The key, I think, is to outsource a lot, and if you can do that really
Yeah.
well, you can be super effective in the way that essentially you can scale your business a little bit quicker.
And that's it. Okay, failing. And the nice thing is, it's a lot less of a kick in the wallet if you have a bad VA versus a bad
For sure, for sure. I mean, it's
office hire. So,
gigantic difference.
all right. So hopefully this was helpful. I know one of the other upcoming podcasts we're going to talk about AI tools for the actual therapist. Right, we're talking about how to make front offices jobs a little bit more efficient. I know Brian, you've had a little bit of experience here, so we're going to talk about that next. But keep on listening, guys. Tell your friends. Our group, we're called Physio Growth, physio-growth.com. If you want a little bit more hands-on advice from people who've actually done it, check that out, and you can join our mentorship group. All
Love
right,
it.
man.
Cool.
I'm out.
See you, man.
See ya.